So, what if the entire universe, all of its mind boggling complexity, operates on just one single, simple rule? Today, we're going to dig into a really fascinating idea that might just reframe how you see, well, everything.
All right, let's really jump into this. That question, it's our launch pad. Could everything we see, from massive spiraling galaxies all the way down to the atoms in our own bodies, could it all just be an expression of one single fundamental principle? It's a huge question, right? And to even start to unpack it, we've got to look at the relationship between the two main players in our cosmos.
Yeah, you can really think of it like a constant conversation, a dance even, happening at the deepest level of reality. So on one side, you've got matter. That's all the stuff in the universe, right? And on the other, you've got space-time, which is like the very fabric of existence itself. And it's the nature of their little chat, their dialogue, that shapes literally everything.
Okay, and here it is. This is the absolute core of this perspective. Spacetime tells matter how to move. Now, I know that might sound super simple on the surface, but hold on, because it's actually a really subtle but incredibly profound shift from how we usually think about gravity and the forces that run the show.
So let's really break this down. The conventional view, the one that comes from Einstein's general relativity, is that matter is the star of the show. You've probably heard that classic analogy, right? The bowling ball on a trampoline. The ball's mass, the matter, is what creates the curve in the fabric. But this other view, it completely flips the script. It suggests that no, space-time is the one calling the shots. It's initiating the action, telling matter exactly which path it has to take. Okay, so if space-time is the one giving the instructions, then what's the simple rule that governs this whole cosmic exchange? Well, it turns out this entire idea is actually rooted in a law of physics you've probably known since you were a kid.
Yep, you guessed it. Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And we're not just talking about launching rockets or hitting a baseball here. No way. The idea being proposed is that this isn't just a high school physics lesson. It's a fundamental principle that's woven into the very fabric of the cosmos itself.
And here's how that cosmic conversation we talked about becomes this perfect, elegant two-way street. So the action, that's space-time telling matter how to move. And the reaction, that's matter, in response, telling space-time how to curve. See? It's this beautiful, perfectly balanced feedback loop. Now, the implication of looking at things this way is, well, it's pretty bold. The idea is that if you view the universe through this simple action-reaction lens, you could potentially just slice right through so much of the complexity, so many of the puzzles that we grapple with in modern physics. It could bring a whole new kind of clarity to the table. Okay, so we've got this idea of a universe that's governed by a simple, elegant rule. Now let's take that same idea and look at it through a totally different lens. Let's step away from physics for a moment and think of it as the rules of a grand, intricate game. And this image, it's just brilliant. It frames the entire universe not as some game of random chance, like rolling dice, but as a game of chess. And what does that suggest? It suggests a reality that operates with strategy, with intention, and with absolutely unbreakable rules. But this whole chess metaphor, it goes even deeper than that. It presents us with this really fascinating paradox, something that seems like a contradiction at first. And it's all about the relationship between freedom and, well, obeying these universal laws. Right. And here's the absolute heart of that paradox. The quote says, "God is free, so he obeys to the law of the universe." Now, wait a minute. At first glance, that just sounds like a complete contradiction, doesn't it? How can absolute freedom possibly coexist with obedience to a law?
Well, let's go right back to our chess analogy because it explains it perfectly. Think about it. Is a chess grandmaster less free because they have to follow the rules of how a knight or a bishop moves? Of course not. In fact, it's their deep, profound mastery of those rules that gives them the freedom to create these beautiful, strategic, and ultimately winning games. So this perspective suggests that maybe, just maybe, ultimate freedom isn't chaos at all. Maybe it's about achieving mastery within a perfect set of rules.
So where does that leave us? How do we connect this simple law of physics with this grand philosophical game? And I think more importantly, what in the world does all of this mean for us, the inhabitants of this incredible universe? Okay, let's tie this all together. So first, we've seen this idea that the universe might just operate on a fundamental action-reaction law. And what does that suggest?
It points toward a reality that's ordered, maybe even predictable, not just random chaos. Then we can see this underlying order as a set of rules, right? Just like in a game of chess. And all of that leads us to this really profound thought. Maybe true freedom isn't about breaking the rules at all, but about understanding them so well that you achieve mastery.
And that brings us to one last, really provocative question about our own place in this cosmic game. If the universe really is this grand game of chess, governed by elegant and unbreakable rules, then what are we? Are we the players, making our own conscious, strategic moves? Or are we simply the pieces, being moved across the board by a logic that's far, far greater than our own? Definitely something to think about.